say an introduction. So, I need a volunteer. Who is watching the Giants game on their phone right now? It's okay, raise your hand. Right there. You, sir. Your job, while I'm speaking, is to raise your hand if anybody scores a run.
1-0.
If you tell me that whoever scores, give me the score, and if it changes, I will update the audience. All right? Okay, good. That way, not everybody here has to check the fucking game. So I apologize if I sound a little funny. I just got here from Failcon, Singapore, which is very far away. I am jet lagged, I have a cold, and I'm apparently allergic to something. So this will be a lot of fun. And I don't have a presentation. I did a presentation there, and I realized that maybe this is better if I just tell you a story about how I got to where I am today and how interesting that story has been and how many failures have occurred along the way. And to start out, I have a degree in journalism. I run a media company. I run a media platform about humor. I'm not a trained comedian. I'm not a trained speaker. I'm not a trained anything. I did get my degree in journalism, which is ironic given that my first language wasn't English. So, born in Korea, native speaker of Korean, which, if you ask my mother today, she'll tell you that I sound like a retarded 3-year-old with my Korean skills. So, I'm not going to go do that. But what I'm here to talk to you about is the journey here. And in 1999, when I graduated from journalism school, the thing that was really going on was .coms. Who says .coms anymore? Startups, really. They're talking about, but they're actually really talking about companies that were trying to change the world in their own meaningful way. And I had actually been running a business in college doing web design work. And they were paying me like $350 an hour to produce websites, which is an astronomical sum of money to pay a college student. And the reason they were doing that is classic supply and demand. Nobody knew how to design websites, let alone buy a domain name. I, in my infinite spare time in college while drinking, decided to learn how to do this, and so I could make a career of it. So I amassed a few tens of thousands of dollars while doing this, and I got a job. Instead of going to newspapers, I realized that I wasn't picking up newspapers, and I had the foresight to say, aha, the world is changing. And if I am the leading edge of a change to come, people won't be reading the news on paper anymore. They will do it online. So it'd be much more interesting to me to throw away the 4-year degree that I had just earned in private school and go start my own company. So from the fire from the pan to the fire, I took all the money I'd earned, raised more than $250,000 to start my own business, and it was supposed to be around web analytics. This was in Chicago. And who knows, like, Boo.com, BOO.com. Anybody remember that story? $150 million. Who knows Webvan? Yes, $1 billion. Yes. Apparently $1 billion of nice used furniture that you could buy at a fire sale a few years later. Well, we weren't too far off, just much smaller scale. The startup that I created folded in 18 months. We started in January of 2000. By June of 2001, we were out of business. And while I was running this company, people told me, here are the mistakes that you will make. Like, very wise, experienced people who had been through the battle before told me exactly what would happen. You will not raise enough money. You will hire too many people. You will not have a good enough product. And you will spend too much of your time trying to raise money instead of building a business. And I said, in my 21-year-old wisdom, I said, you old people. I'm different, you see. I will not make any of those mistakes. So I promptly proceeded to hire too many people, not build a good enough product, and lose my shirt. Every single dime that I've earned, every single penny that I had in my bank account went away. In fact, I actually ended up, when the company was all said and done, I had $40,000 of credit card debt because I had started putting company expenses on my credit card. About a year into the company, anything that was non-payroll went on my personal credit cards. And it was just a cycle of credit card after another credit card. By the way, who the fuck is giving 21-year-olds $40,000 a credit card? Like, I should have really seen the financial crisis coming. That's another fail right there. Okay, I made a lot of money betting against myself. So, credit card companies were giving recent college graduates $40,000 or more in credit lines. And so every equipment, every laptop, anything that could be paid for in credit card, I put on my credit card. And I remember the company balance, checking account waning, unable to raise money, and I'm looking at my credit card bill and going, how the hell am I going to pay this off? Like, this is an astronomical sum of money. Like, it's like getting another private school education with 20% interest. It's the interest that kills you. So when I folded my company, I went through a very, very dark phase, and I wrote about this already on my blog, about not being able to leave the room and seriously contemplating suicide. Like, when you're 22 years old and you've lost the only thing that you tried at, like, up to that point in my life, everything that I've ever tried at, I came in first. Or I got a sticker for it. Like, if you're not first, you got a bunch of stickers. That's good. It's great. It's great for your self-esteem, but it's a hollow self-esteem. It doesn't test your mettle as a person. It doesn't teach you anything when the shit hits the fan. And the shit absolutely hit the fan. You are not successful. You no longer have friends. You no longer have investors. You don't think you can do anything again. You don't think anybody will ever trust you with their money. And so you think that your life as an entrepreneur is over. You think that this is it. So I spent 2 weeks in my bedroom unable to leave. And that was really, really difficult. But I think you realize that the reality of the situation is never that bad. Somebody said this to me many years ago, and I'm sure it's a famous quote from somebody else, and it says, "You are never as bad as they say you are, and you are never as good as you think you are." And it served me very well. It served me in times of good and times of bad. When shit's hitting the fan and people tell you that you suck and your business sucks and everything you do sucks, you don't suck as bad. And when you think you are the king of the world, when you think that you have done everything right, you know that that's not true either. This too shall pass is another way of putting it. So I finally got out of my bedroom and I said, I need a job. This $40,000 of debt is going to go away. I made a handful of promises to myself. One is I will not declare bankruptcy. I will actually pay this off. Second, I will not file for unemployment. I'm an immigrant. I came to this country as an immigrant, and I refuse to take public assistance, even if I have paid into it. And third, I would only work for another entrepreneur who had actually had success. That I wasn't going to take a job at a big company and just be a peon. If I was going to be a peon, I was going to be a peon to somebody who's done something as an entrepreneur. So that meant that the very first job I took after closing my company as CEO was the acting general manager of the largest independent radio station, like in the country. And he effectively paid me $8.50 an hour. $8.50 an hour. That is very difficult to pay credit card debt and your rent and pay for food. But you kind of figure out how to manage. I remember actually, by the way, I'm late on my credit card bills and I got more credit cards. And so I could figure out how to offload the 20% interest on one card to the 0% 3-month introductory rate on the other. How many of you know exactly what I'm talking about? It's a very useful tactic. So I managed to stay afloat for about a year and a half. And I was like, okay, maybe I'm not a failure. Maybe I know what I'm doing a little bit. Maybe, just maybe, if I learn enough from other entrepreneurs, I could try this again. Well, that entrepreneur and I had a serious disagreement about how to run his company. Let me just rephrase that. We had a serious disagreement about how to run his company. So I left. Apparently my ego was still pretty large. And then I ended up working for another entrepreneur who showed me the ropes, and I spent 3 years at his company, and he walked me into his office one day, and he was like, he's been doing it for about 12 years, and he said, It was me and his CFO. He said, Ben, I'm going to put you on the fast track. I want to retire, and I want you to be the next CEO. Like, holy shit. The CFO turns to him and goes, I thought you were going to make me the CEO. 6 months later, he ended up selling the company, and I never became the CEO of that business. So I was disappointed once again. And I tried it one more time. I moved to Seattle. I moved away from Chicago. I moved to Seattle, and I decided that I was going to do this one more time. And the CEO that I worked for, brilliant guy. Like, unfortunately, he was like Steve Jobs in the way Steve Jobs was bad. Like, all the bad parts of Steve Jobs was there. So I learned a lot from that. I learned how to actually treat employees. I learned not to storm into somebody's office and start screaming when you're on the phone with a client, for example. That's bad for business. So I learned a lot of things, and I learned just as many things to do right as just as many things to not do as well. I learned just as many right things to do as the wrong things to do. And that was actually really important, because when I finally started my company in September of 2007, it was a month before the recession was officially declared. And I don't know that I would have started my business if I had known that there was a recession coming, that the world's greatest recession in our lifetime would be showing up on my doorstep the next month. And it was me and my PJs, and my only employee was the dog, and I knew how to treat my dog correctly. Give him lots of food and water, and pet him on the belly. He'll be a happy employee. So I started adding more people. The site started growing. So we bought I Can Ask Cheezburger. I was 8 months old at the time. We started growing it. We started adding other websites. And everything that I know to be an entrepreneur, I learned from those people who taught me their successes as well as their shortcomings. And I know that in a world where we admire those who are successful, I know that in a world where we look up to people who are entrepreneurs who are successful, it is not that they are without flaws. It is that they were able to overcome their fears and their flaws and their shortcomings because they learned from others, or they have surrounded themselves with people who will tell them the unvarnished truth. So what I do now is I run a company, roughly 90 to 100 people. We've been successful in a field that didn't exist 5 years ago, which is internet culture and memes. And right now, I took a business that was profitable, that was making millions of dollars in profit, and 2 years ago raised $30 million of venture capital money. Me, the guy who couldn't leave his bedroom because I couldn't believe that somebody else would give me a chance. 2 years ago, accepted that I am okay, I know this sounds weird, I'm okay with losing other people's money. We laugh at that because it sounds funny. I'm okay with losing other people's money. But when you go through the process of failure and you already lost millions of other people's money, then you ask yourself, do I want to go through that responsibility again? Am I willing to take that risk? Am I willing to put my credibility on the line? And I tell myself, those are big boys. They know what they're doing. They're professionals. They're doing this not because of the goodness of their heart, because they too want to make more money for their clients. That's what venture capital is about. As one of my board members, Brad Feld, explained it to me, my limited partners, the partners who give them money for their venture fund, give me a box of money, and my job is to return them a slightly larger box of money a few years later. That's it. And if you're part of the process, that means they know that they're professional, that they believe that you can actually do them good, and if not, they've got other bets. And that's okay. So I accepted $30 million to run a funny internet picture business. So I took that money and I immediately took a profitable business that was sustainable and turned it unprofitable, which not a lot of entrepreneurs like doing. Mainly because I feel like we're on a mission that is greater than ours, that we want to make the world happy for 5 minutes a day, and that if I'm willing to take this risk, then at least I'll be able to tell a good story. Because I can't walk away from this. I can't go to my deathbed thinking about the money I made. I'm going to go to my deathbed thinking about all the opportunities that were given to me and how awesome of a life that I've been able to live. So I think that it's really important for us to recognize that whatever drives you, money's a part of the equation. Money's absolutely part of the score. But all of us are probably driven by the fact that we want to learn, that we want to have amazing experiences, that we want to look back on our time and say, I took that risk. If it's successful, then you get to actually say it to a lot more people. If you don't, you get to tell your grandkids. Those two final outcomes are not that dissimilar. In other words, in a world that we live in, you do not have to risk your life. You get to risk a little bit of your career. And that's a marginal risk. That isn't life or death, and sometimes we mistake success in our business with life or death. But we don't need to, because we live in a very protected society. And the reason a protected society exists is so that entrepreneurs can take on risk that seems unreasonable, that guys like me can raise $30 million on funny picture businesses. And what we're doing with that money is we're taking Cheezburger from a media company to a technology platform where everybody can express their sense of humor. Media company of lolcats, failed videos, internet memes. Technology platform for people to share and express their sense of humor. Those are two vastly different things. The content may be the same, but it's a different skill set. We, as a company of 90 people or 100 people, have to figure out how to stop being a media organization and how to start being a technology platform. It's something we've never done before. And so today, we're in the process of finally making this transition. And the point that I'm trying to make is, even though we've been successful in our past, we're willing to fail again. We're willing to take $30 million of investment, everything I own, everything that we've built up to this point, all the great stories that we have to tell, and we'll bet it one more time. And if we're successful at this, I guarantee you, we'll bet it again. And I hope that all of you, thank you. And I do it not because, well, yeah, I do want to become rich. Let's be honest. Sure, I want to be rich. I want to have a lot of money. But that's not what drives me every morning. What drives me is I want to accomplish something. Like part of the failure that I went through in my early 20s made me realize that I'm more hungry for success than I am hungry for the money. And that's okay. If you are that person, or if you're more hungry about the money, if you're more hungry about the fame, accept that. And I hope that you can use that to drive who you are as an entrepreneur. And I hope that you can use that to drive yourself to overcome whatever shortcomings you think you have. Because none of us are without those shortcomings. We can only surround ourselves with those who can help us. We can only surround ourselves with the lessons from our past. So I hope that you can take my lesson here of failure and constantly trying and reinventing ourselves as a message from FailCon. That failure is only a failure if you don't get back up. That if you get back up, then it's a lesson. Thank you.